Have you ever had an interaction that changed everything? My life has been shaped again and again by such moments. Unexpected, never when I thought something would work out. And in those in-between times, it can feel like everyone else has a clear map to follow while you're wandering without one. That's exactly how I felt as I zigzagged through my own life. Architecture, illustration, fashion. By my late 20s, those zigzags had led me back home in Delhi, unemployed, staring at a blank wall, with no idea what came next. Most nights, after locking the gate, my mother and I would stand outside, chatting before going into bed. One night, out of the blue, she looks up at the sky and says, "Someday, your art will reach the moon." I thought she had lost her mind. The moon was the last place my work was going. But decades later, those words would come back, because my journey was shaped by interactions that opened paths I could never have imagined. And that story began years earlier in my childhood. I grew up in Kabul, in the middle of Soviet-occupied Afghanistan. Outside, the country was torn by conflict. Inside, because of my father's work with the United Nations, we lived in a very different world. A close-knit, multicultural bubble. People from every continent. Families who became our extended family. We shared food, greetings in languages I didn't know, stories from places I'd never seen. And those daily interactions taught me something simple but powerful. Difference is not what divides us, it's what connects us. That glimpse of something universal would later shape everything I did. At 18, my family and I left Kabul for India. I still remember boarding the plane, watching the city disappear. I knew I would never again see the places familiar to me or the people I had known. This was the 80s, no way to stay connected. And with Afghanistan slipping deeper into war, I knew I would never return. In that single flight, I lost a lifetime. And in that loss, a question took root. What is it that truly connects us as people? Over the years, I kept circling back to the same questions. What is it that every culture, every discipline draws from? What are the patterns and ideas we all share? This search eventually evolved into what I later called the Interactions Project. Creation and life cycles, shape and color, movement and direction, space, time, and energy. Together, they're not mine or yours. They belong to all of us. And so they became the foundation for 5 designs, the interactions designs. From the beginning, I wanted interactions to belong to anyone, something people could see themselves in. Simple, clear, accessible. Not an idea that would leave them saying, "I don't understand." As an architect and designer, I could picture how it might take form. In buildings, clothes, in even the everyday objects we use, touching every facet of human experience, finding resonance with everyone. I held on to that vision even as the journey kept reshaping itself. I began with paintings, the Interactions series. Now, art isn't just about creating, it also needs to be seen. So my husband Gurtaj suggested I approach the Museum of Art and Design in Singapore. The curator Jasmine wasn't convinced until she read the notes I had left behind. And she wanted the entire series. There was just one problem. I hadn't finished. So I painted around the clock. When my right hand froze, I switched to my left. When both froze, I had to stop. Later, when I saw my paintings glowing against black walls, luminous, almost alive, every zigzag, every doubt felt worth it. Even if I wasn't sure I would ever paint again. Visitors to the gallery had endless questions. What genre is this? Why the name Interactions? I can't see it. Is it really a single continuous line? I tried explaining, but after a while I realized the best way wasn't to explain at all. It was to show them. So I decided to create line drawings, beginning with life cycles. A single, unbroken line tracing the outline of each design, beginning and ending at the same point. And once people saw the line moving, they finally saw the design. Those animations, born out of a critique, ended up on the world's largest HD screen, a 60-meter wall at the Suntec Convention Center in Singapore. A few years earlier, after my solo exhibition at Suntec, I had stood in front of the same wall with Gurtaj and joked, my art ought to be on that wall. And he had replied lightheartedly, that would be impossible. And yet, there it was. That's when I realized the Interactions project was no longer just mine. It had begun to live a life of its own, shaped by every person it touched. It was time for it to step off the walls and enter new realms. The next step was clear, to involve scientists, technologists, institutions, to see how their hands would reshape the work. That chance came in 2020 through a simple interaction, one conversation that opened a door. 2 of my artworks were selected by the Moon Gallery, the world's first extraterrestrial art gallery carrying visions of humanity's future into space. In collaboration with scientists at Nanyang Technological University in Singapore, we created the 2 artworks using cutting-edge technology. And then they journeyed to the International Space Station, where they orbited Earth for nearly a year. The ISS zips across space at 25 times the speed of sound, circling Earth 16 times a day, crossing entire countries in minutes. I used to track it on NASA's website, step outside, look up, and there it was, the 3rd brightest object in the sky after the sun and the moon. To know that what began in solitude on my drawing board was now circling the entire planet, crossing every border, every city, every home, was surreal. And it was possible only through collaborations between disciplines, between art and science. The Interactions designs had stepped off the walls into orbit. But If they could reach the vastness of space above, could they also descend into the hidden depths below? If space is infinite and weightless, the deep ocean is its mirror opposite, dark and crushing. And this journey too began with an interaction, a reconnection with an old friend. From there came new collaborations with scientists and engineers from Singapore and Japan. Together, we created the world's first deep ocean installation. 3 interactions cubes built to endure the immense pressure of the Hadal Zone, each carrying a message of resilience and connection. In 2023, JAMSTEC and New Star carried out a trial descent into the Hadal Zone, almost twice the depth of the Titanic. The 3 cubes survived the crushing forces and returned intact. To make this possible, New Star engineered a special holder integrating the installation into the deep ocean seismic network built to provide early warnings for earthquakes and tsunamis. Once again, scientists at NTU contributed, producing one of the 3 cubes with a breakthrough 3D printing invention developed through an entirely new hybrid process. From aboard JAMSTEC scientific vessel, the Chikyu, the deep ocean cubes were secured into their holder, readied for the descent into the deepest ocean. Before departure, the international science team gathered with the installation, a symbol of what becomes possible when nations and disciplines work together to protect lives. And then came the defining moment. On 12th December 2024, the final 3 cubes began their descent into one of the most volatile regions on the planet, 7 kilometers down, where the pressure is 700 times greater than at the surface. And just as I had once looked up at the ISS in orbit, I now looked down, watching undersea cameras reveal the first ever footage of an art installation at that depth. To see those same designs, which began on my drawing board, now resting in a place that had never before seen light, was unbelievable. The journey and the collaboration gave the installation its meaning. While the deep ocean cubes lie hidden on the ocean floor, one of them is here with me today. This cube has made the journey to a depth of 7 kilometers in 2023 and returned. On its 5 faces are the 5 designs, the 5 interactions designs. From stepping off walls, to orbiting above us, to the silence of the depths, the Interactions project has become the only art to span both extremes of human reach. If space and the deep had both been reached, there was still one frontier left, the moon. A third Interactions artwork chosen by the Moon Gallery will travel nearly 400,000 kilometers and find permanence on the moon by the end of this year. It is called Time Slices. It was only now that I remembered my mother's words from decades earlier. Someday, your art will reach the moon. She isn't here to say, I told you so, but she would have. People often ask me, what's the point of creating installations no one can see? Because when stories connect us, they remind us that each of us, in our own way, can leave a trace that endures beyond what is visible. They shape not just memory, but possibility. And for me, each turning point began with one interaction. Conversations sparked new directions. Collaborations crossed disciplines and borders. Connections gave the work new life. That is what interactions has always been about. Threads that remind us we are connected, even when we cannot see it. The 5 interaction designs have now traveled to every realm of human existence, connecting humanity across time, across horizons, across thought and belief. Though the installations themselves lie beyond reach, their stories won't stay hidden. They've already linked the infinity of space above with the depths below and with the currents of existence in between. Now they'll take root, returning as buildings, sculptures, installations in the very cities they once only passed over. And each city will shape them with its own DNA, creating new stories of connection while keeping alive the essence of interactions. At 18, I thought I had lost my world. In truth, that ending opened up a whole new universe. Looking back, I see that every path I thought was disconnected, every moment I felt adrift, was shaping this journey. A critique in a gallery led to the largest wall. A coffee with a stranger led to the moon. A reunion with an old friend led to the deep ocean. Each step, from the gallery walls to orbit, to the ocean floor, to the moon, grew from one encounter. Not when I expected it, not when I planned it, but always in its own time. And that's the beauty of it. The connections we make, the ideas we explore, the chances we take, each has the power to open a new door. Because all it takes is one interaction to change your life forever. Thank you.